Okay, can you see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so hello everyone, good afternoon. Thanks Alexei for this invitation to be here today, and congrats on the Data Talks Club. It's a huge success. So my name is Filipa, I'm from Portugal. I'm currently living here. My background actually is on biomedical engineering, but for the last years, I've been working as a data scientist. Currently, I'm working for the automotive industry. And on my free time, I also like to dedicate some time to this passion. More specifically, I belong to the lead team of data science for Social Good Portugal. And basically, based on this experience with this organization, I would like to bring you some ideas on how you could get involved in data science for social good. So I believe and I want to bring ideas that might fit different people and different interests. So maybe you are looking for something to work with people, with a team, but maybe you are looking for some project you can do on your own. Maybe you want to develop your data science skills, or maybe you want to develop management skills, people skills, or communication skills. And for you to have an idea, I think even people which don't have a technical background in data science, for instance, I know people with a background in law or others, which can also help or design, which can also help in this type of projects, for instance, on ethical issues, etc. So basically, I will try to convince you that there is something out there for you to try, and some place where you can actually help. So the first idea I bring here is to actually help starting DSSG initiative. I've not done this before, because when I joined the DSSG Portugal, it already existed for 1 year, but I know all the steps they went through, and that's why I feel comfortable of talking about it. So this initiative can be anything. For instance, in our case, it was a non-profit organization, but for instance, Alexei organized a Slack group, which now also organizes talks. So you can think about any initiative you'd like to create. But I think the first step would be, of course, to define what are your goals, or what do you want to create. So in our case, we knew that we wanted to bring beneficiaries and volunteers together to build projects, social good projects related with data scientists. So these beneficiaries might be charities, NGOs, and the volunteers might be anyone from the community which wants to help and which has the required skills, let's say. And then we want to bring them together to launch small projects, simple projects, but impactful projects. And so after defining yourself, you need to build your team. So what we did here, because we have this component of the volunteers and the beneficiaries, and we need to interact with them. We have a team for each of these components. So we have the volunteers management and the beneficiaries management. And then we have a communications team, which I think is always important in any kind of initiative. And because we found that we will need some kind of financial support, we also have a team for gathering sponsors and partners to help our projects. After this, what we have been doing, and you should do that from the first day, is to really define the processes. So, for instance, in our case, we have a handbook where we write everything about DSSG Portugal, what are the steps of building a project, but also you need to have in mind this will always be changing. So for instance, in our process, which is meet the beneficiary, then build the scope of the project, and then get this ethics approval. For instance, this step was not there at the beginning. And then we started to understand that for a social project, sometimes it's difficult to define some boundaries. So for instance, who has access to the data, for how much time, how to anonymize data. And then we decided that we needed some advisors for this, which we added to the team, and every step that we have is very well documented in our handbook. So basically, these are like the 3 steps that can help you start thinking on a similar initiative, I would say. But maybe you don't want to start such a big thing from scratch. So maybe you want to directly use your data science skills on a project. And I think you can do this in a team and use the projects that are already there in organizations such as ours, but others that I will mention later in this presentation. Or you can even do it on your own. So imagine that in your city or in your country, there is this ONG that you really know and you're really motivated to help them. So you can go directly to them, understand what kind of data they have and which kind of problems they have. And so here I will just give 2 examples of this. And I hope this is kind of an inspiration. So this one was a project with AZP. They are basically a public vet hospital in Portugal. And they had this problem where they had a lot of clients in some days. They had huge waiting times. And they had a lot of data on scheduling, appointments, treatments. So we designed a project where we could firstly build a dashboard where they could get these insights on what are the weekdays where they have more appointments, what could they do to plan better, and basically help them make more informed decisions. And finally, we also included in this dashboard prediction for the following days, so that they could predict how many appointments or treatments they would have on the next days. So this was a team of 5 volunteers. We had a technical lead, a project manager, and then 3 makers. That's how we call them. And if you want to know more, there's also this URL here. And another project that is now ongoing, it is with Fruta Feia. So if we translate it into English, it will be something like ugly fruit. Basically, what they do is that they create an alternative market for the fruits and vegetables that, because of their size or because of their appearance, they are not accepted by the main channels like the supermarkets. And what they do is they collect these products directly from the farmers, and then they build baskets with these fruits and vegetables, and they have like a list of clients which can pay lower prices for good quality products, even if they are not like beautiful. And the problem we found here is that they were doing a lot of things manually. So for instance, based on the products they have each week, they are building these baskets manually. So they decide, okay, each basket will have 5 apples, 3 bananas, etc. And what we wanted to do is to build an automatic tool where they can have this content automatically planned. And we hope that in terms of like our mission for social good here is of course their mission as well, which is to reduce waste, but also try to help more farmers. So we want to maximize the product and the farmers' turnover so that we are not relying always on the same farmer every week, and that we can help more farmers. So one shortcoming of this kind of project is that we are dependent on the data from a third party. So anytime we have a question about the data, about the process, we need to have a meeting with them. We need to make sure that we are building something really useful that they will be using. And because this might take much more time for the project, I think another great solution that we already found in our journey is to use open data also for social good. So instead of relying on a data set that might have like difficult access or even legal issues to access, you can go for the open data that you have from government. You have data regarding health, regarding environment, everything, and it's much easier to set up the project and to develop it. So I will give an example. I'm sorry it's about COVID. I think everyone is a bit tired of it. But basically 1 year ago, in DSSG PT, we noticed there was a problem because the government was sharing like the daily data of COVID in Portugal in PDF files. And we knew from the community that there were a lot of data enthusiasts which were prepared and really eager to help. They wanted to create visualizations, dashboards with COVID data, but they couldn't do that because it was in a PDF file. So what we did was to create this public data repository. We started to feed this by manually extracting this data from the PDF files. And as soon as we started, the community wanted to help. So there was one volunteer that did this automatic algorithm to collect the data from the PDF, which made everything easier. And we started to receive a lot of contributions. So people doing visualizations, predictive applications, these were shared in the news. We also had a volunteer who created like a tweet bot that every day is feeding this data to Twitter, and there's a lot of people in Portugal following this data. And then we also created some what we call mini projects. So we had some ideas on how this data could be used for social purposes. And we basically posted these ideas on GitHub, and we told the community, okay, if you would like to work on this mini project, just leave a comment. And it took like a few hours for people to join. This one is an example where basically they used the data from the repository, and they also collected data from Twitter and the news. And then they matched this information with some sentiment analysis on how the population was feeling according to the numbers, and also according to the different measures of the government, like the lockdown, closed schools, open schools, etc. So definitely, I think COVID-19 told us, and we learned that open data is a really good resource. So probably I would recommend someone who wants to start to just look for the open data in your country or in some subject that you like, any topic. For instance, now we started to explore the data on domestic violence in Portugal, and we also have some projects on that. But as soon as you start to look for open data, you will have a lot of ideas, I'm sure, for new projects. And finally, this is the one I chose to be involved in data science for social good. So you can always join an initiative such as ours. DSSG exists in other countries such as Germany, Spain, and US. You also have data kinds, Correlate AI, you have Data for in Greece, Social Group Brazil, and Social Finance in the UK. So these are different organizations with different definitions. So as I started this presentation, I presented you like our definition of beneficiaries, volunteers. These organizations might work a bit differently, but the purpose is always to develop social projects with data science. And I know they all have calls to volunteers, so you might be interested in checking those. And of course, if you know more, please share with me. I also like to keep this list updated. And finally, I also suggest that you can simply ignore this list that I gave you, and of course, start have another idea on how to help in this topic. And I think that's it from me. So thanks everyone for your attention. I'm open to questions, so you may leave some suggestions also on the comments, and feel free to contact me.
Yeah, thank you, Filipa. So we do have a couple of questions now. First of all, are there many nonprofit organizations which have data?
So they have data, at least I will tell my experience in Portugal. So normally they have some kind of data, and then they have different maturity levels in terms of data. So let's say some just have some data because, for instance, they work with people with needs, and of course they need to collect their name, the number of elements of the family, but they collect data not with the purpose of studying that data. And normally this is like raw data, not well organized at all. It's really difficult to work with that. So I can give some examples where we had data like handwritten data for the projects, where the volunteers have to manually write that and pass it to a CSV file, for instance. We also had some screenshots because sometimes they have this data on a platform and they are not able to extract it. But we have already found some other organizations where they have like already this idea that data can help, data analysis can help. And normally they know that they need this data because these social organizations need to report and, for instance, produce reports every year about their impact. So they know the importance, and that's really important. They know that this is relevant, but yeah, it's really difficult to find. For instance, normally there's not anyone just working like a data scientist or a data engineer on this kind of organization. They just don't have the resources to do so. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Another question from Nicholas. So the question is, hi, Filipa, thanks for the interesting talk. How often do these data science products go into production and are actually used from a day-to-day basis by the nonprofits? And before you answer, I quickly want to ask Agnieszka, because probably this is something you can answer in the next talk. Am I correct?
Yeah, sure. I can talk about detect waste.
yes, because I think this is actually a good example where a project went to production and actually used on a daily basis. But maybe Filipa, you have some other examples.
Yeah. So we have done 3 projects until now, and I would say just one went to, let's say, what is production. So the example I gave of the public vet hospital, they have a dashboard which is always running and which gets the predictions automatically every day. So that I will consider the one which is in production. The other ones, which were the first ones, for one, we just produced a report with visualizations for the association to have like this resource for their activities. And the other one was to create some communication material with statistics. So also it was not production, it was like it was done in that point in time, and it doesn't get updated. So yeah, just one. I would say most of the times it's not production ready, because we are, like I said before, we are dealing with low maturity levels in terms of data. So when we start a project, at least the first project is not so big as production requires.
But I guess there are different definitions of production, quote unquote, because like as long as it's used, the project is used and brings value, it's already good enough, right? It's already worth spending time, investing time into this project, right? Yeah,
you're right. So if you consider production as using, I would say that the projects we have, they are all being used. But that's also an important thing is after the project, after 6 months, we always get back to the beneficiary and we ask them feedback to understand if they are using it, if it's useful. Yeah, that's an important part of running social good projects.
Yes, thank you. Another question to you, Filipa. How important it is to know a language, for example, Portuguese, to join a data science for social good project in Portugal?
Yeah, good question. So as I told you, we have 2 kinds of projects. So one requires you to interact with this beneficiary. So the examples I gave of the fruit and the public vet. And for these ones, we require that people are native or can talk Portuguese fluently. And this is because we need to have like meetings almost every week with the beneficiary. Normally the data is in Portuguese. So we already tried, because at first we really wanted to include anyone which was excited to help. But actually it turns out that then the communication is really difficult. So it's already difficult to communicate data science topics to someone which is not into it. And if we can't speak Portuguese, it's even more difficult. But for instance, for the open data projects, it's easier to help if you don't talk Portuguese.
Okay, thank you. Well, we have a couple of more questions, but I suggest we first hear Agnieszka's presentation, and then we come back to these questions.
Sure. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Filipa.
Okay, thank you. Can I start my presentation? Filipa, if you could close your screen sharing.
Yes, I'm trying. No.
Oh, okay, thanks. Okay, I hope you can see it.
Yes.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Agnieszka Mikołajczyk, and I'm from the organization Women in Machine Learning and Data Science Poland. And today I would like to talk about Detect Waste project, Detect Waste in Pomerania. And Pomerania is the region of Poland, the north of Poland, where we started our project. I am a PhD student at Gdańsk University of Technology, and I am very enthusiastic about deep learning, data science, and so on. And in my free time also, just like Filipa, I'm working with AI for good. So at first, I would like to start with a little bit of motivation. So first, you might think, why detect waste? And also, who would like to look at the images of litter, at the images of waste? Yeah, so for the last 5 months, we looked almost every day at the images of waste. And why we did that? So the waste pollution is one of the biggest environmental issues in the modern world. And it's not just a catchphrase. This is a real problem. So some scientists estimate that now in our oceans and seas is around 5 billion tons of litter swimming in the ocean. And it's estimated that an average European produces 100 kilograms of waste every year. And those statistics are really overwhelming to me. And I was really surprised. And I started to think, do I use 100 kilograms of waste every year? It's like 2 times my weight, and it's really scary. And if we don't change our habits, and if we don't change our lifestyles, or if we don't do something about it, in 30 years, there will be more waste in oceans than living creatures. And it's a really scary future if you think that, for instance, your children in future, when they come to a beach, they will see more litter than fish. And it's a really scary future. So that's why one of our motivations to start this project. And what is exactly Detect Waste? Detect Waste is a 5-month educational non-profit project, just like some of them that Filipa showed us. So during this presentation, I would like to show you some insights of the project, like how this kind of social project looks from the inside. Yeah. And our goal, our idea was to use AI, artificial intelligence, to detect waste in images and video. And it all started from 3 women, Agnieszka, Mikołajczyk, yeah, that's me, Ewa Marczewska, and Magdalena Cortas, which are great data scientists. We all started this great idea, this plan to start this project. It wasn't the first one, because last year I joined a project which Eva and Magdalena started of the bird song recognition. But this year we wanted to do some AI for good, so social sciences. And we thought about detecting litter, because waste pollution is a great big problem. And we started recruiting people, and what surprised us, we got really lots of applications, and we selected in total 10 outstanding team members and also 5 great mentors. And thankfully, we got great partners. We have cooperation with Digital Innovation Hub in Gdańsk, with VoiceLab AI, Epinote AI, and each one of them helped us a lot. For instance, we got servers where we could train our deep learning models, because as some of you might know, deep learning models require a lot of GPU space. And also we got our data annotated, which was really helpful. And we couldn't do this project without them. Now I would like to move on to data models and code. So probably many of you find it the most interesting. And I will just quickly summarize what we did here, and to show you the process of going through the project like ours. Okay, so let's look at open litter data sets. So what we need here, we need images of litter, and we need annotations. So we want to know what kind of litter is on the image and also where it is. And and at first we wanted to start with TACO dataset, and TACO dataset have images of waste in the wild. So for instance, waste in the forest or on the beach and so on. And there is around 60 categories in TACO dataset, and they have annotation on segmentations level. So we have not only the localization of the litter, and not only the category of the litter, but also we have the shape of the litter and segmentation mask. There are a few other data sets, and they are pretty diverse. So as you can see, here are some statistics about those data sets, and each of them had different classes, different categories, and also different backgrounds. For instance, some of them had plain background, like drink waste data set with only cans and bottles, and some of them were waste in the wild, and also photos from above, from drone, and underwater images. And there was really plenty of diverse images. And here you can see some examples. Like here we have glass, aluminum can, and different kind of plastic. And here a man holding a bottle, which is annotated as liter. Here another photo in the city, some bottles recognized as liter, and also with segmentation masks, and underwater images, and some of them had even around 40 or 30 years. They are pretty old. And here images from drones, and also like great big piles of garbage and so on. And we wanted to use all of this data. We didn't want to limit ourselves just to one single data set. We wanted to use all of it because, as you know, data is power. And this was, pretty difficult. So we started by selecting categories which we want to classify. So we wanted to classify our litter into categories according to recycling rules in Gdańsk. We didn't want to classify it into just bottle or I don't know, like this kind of plastic you saw before. We wanted to have strict categories just as recycling rules in Gdańsk. And Gdańsk is a city in Poland in which almost all project members live. And here we have categories such as paper, metals and plastics, glass, bio, and non-recyclable. And bio are, like fruit peels, vegetables, and food waste, and so on. And non-recyclable are things like some different kind of dirty paper or different kinds of plastics that are non-recyclable in Gdańsk, and other types of waste like, I don't know, cat litter. And category other, here we have non-typical waste and hazardous waste. So for instance, medicine packaging or car tires, styrofoam, or even old furniture. So as you can see, even those 6 categories are pretty diverse. We have items of different sizes, different shapes, colors, and so on. And also we have category of unknown. And some of you might think, why should we categorize waste into category of unknown? And in some of the images, we could find litter that was such degraded, so old, that we couldn't tell what exactly it is. But we were sure that this is litter. And in our project, we want to recognize every litter possible. So that's why we also wanted to recognize degraded litter. And we placed it in the unknown section. So let's sum up the challenges we had to fight during our project. So at first, when we merged our data sets, and it was also not very easy how to merge all those categories, the dataset was pretty unbalanced. So the most of the objects were metals and plastics. Also a lot of unknown and non-recyclable. And also categories were pretty diverse. So for instance, Open Litter Map, a really big data set of images of litter, have over 100 categories. And they have categories like small card box, big card box, medium card box, and also names of companies. And the data set is great itself, but categories are pretty hard for us to use in our project. And also they have a lot of noise. Annotations are sometimes, this dataset is crowdsourced. So some of annotations are wrong or just poorly annotated. And also we have TACO dataset, we have 60 categories, and some other datasets have just one category, litter, or category litter, non-litter, recyclable, non-recyclable. So as you can see, it's really diverse and really hard problems, and we spent hours solving it. Also, another kind of problem, we have different types of annotations. And here I mean that, for instance, Open Litter Map is created for multi-label classification. So we only categorize the items that are on the image. But what we want here, we want images annotated on detection level, because we not only want to have, classification, but also that localization. So we want to tell in which part of the image we have the object, the litter. And other data sets, on the other hand, had segmentation masks, so it was prepared for segmentation task. Also diverse backgrounds and lighting conditions, quality, and so on, as I showed you before. So based on that, we had to prepare our two stages approach. And usually detection is done in just one stage. And it's just one model that do detection and classification. But in our case, we had much more images for classification and much less for detection. So we just split it into models, one for detection only, litter, only waste, and the other for classifying the bounding box that detector find. So what we do here is detector is finding the litter on the image. We cut the litter from the image and classify it with the classifier. So finally the litter can come in the right bin. And here is the difference between detecting and classifying in one single model, and here when we are using two different models. And because for classification and for detection, we could use other data sets, our model generalized better. So here you can see the difference. Okay, so what about the litter detector? So for detecting litter, we used EfficientDet. And EfficientDet is a neural network, convolutional neural network that was introduced in 2019. And the EfficientDet D2 worked the best for our problem. However, we tested many more. We split our work in teams at the beginning of the project, and for first 2 months, each part of our team was trying different neural network, and we checked EfficientDets, we checked YOLO, we checked detection, transformers, and we also even tried segmentation, so we tried masked and faster CNNs. Also, we checked different data augmentations, schedulers, and hyperparameters, and we worked really a lot on that problem. And then litter classification. So when our detector detects the litter, we cut it out and then try to classify it with our litter classification model. So the best one was EfficientNet B2, so the backbone of our detection model. And here we tried semi-supervised approach, pseudo-labeling. We tried different data augmentations, schedulers, and hyperparameters. But now let's move on to pseudo-labeling. Pseudo-labeling is a very interesting technique that allowed us to use all of our unannotated data, because we had a lot of data sets with just literally labeled. So we could use it to classify it into 7 categories anyway. So maybe some of you know this technique and some know. So I will just quickly introduce it. So what we do here is first we take annotated data, so all of the liter categorized into 7 our categories, and then use it to train the model. After we train the model, we use this trained model to annotate unannotated data. So we have much more unannotated data than annotated data. And after we do this, we have pseudo labels. So those labels are not real labels, or they are just pseudo labels. But anyway, we treat them like they are grand truth. So we use pseudo labels and annotated data together to train the model again. And this trained model should be a little bit better than this one. And we repeat the process. So again, we use our trained model to annotate our unannotated data and again use it to train the model. And we repeat those steps until the results are satisfactory. And we can do it every batch or every epoch, just as you want. And here are the example results. So our final model detects liter with around 75% of mean average precision, and we classify it into 7 categories and 1 additional category of background. So 8 categories in total, with 75% of average accuracy. And here you can see other example of how our classifier and detector works. And here, as you can see, when we got a little bit closer to the bottle, it was classified as glass correctly. And here other example, waste on the bus stop in Gdańsk. And here are mostly cigarette butts. And usually small objects are very hard to recognize. So just to summarize the project, because it's all about projects for social sciences for good. It was 5 months of very hard work with over 10 official meetings. We met online every 2 weeks. We worked in 2-week sprints. And 9 out of 10 people who joined the project survived and finished it. So I think it's a great success. We posted 10 blog posts in total. So you are welcome to read it and just see our website. And we finished our project with around 1,000 man hours. And it was 5 months also of coding. And we had over 18 commits to our official repository, 500 experiments in 5 projects on Neptune AI, and also numerous trainings that are not included in those experiments in Neptune AI because we didn't track all of them, and also thousands of lines of code. And everything is shared in an open source matter, so you can go to our website, check it out, and there is a link to our GitHub repository. You can check it, you can try it, and you are really welcome to do that. We also place there links to all datasets we used, so it makes it easier to follow up. So what now, where can we use it? And just few examples. We could use such detector to monitor environment with drones. So a drone could fly over a forest or over certain regions of the city and monitor if there are some new waste, if there is a cleaning team that needs to go there, and so on. And also it could automate recycling process, because in many places it's still just a human labor when people sit and categorize it by themselves. And this is all from me. So thank you for your attention. And if you have any question, you are free to ask.
Oh, thank you. And this is oh, I can hear myself.
Okay.
Maybe Agnieszka, you can mute yourself while I ask. Okay, thank you. Yeah, sorry, there was some sort of I heard my voice. So first of all, I want to do a shout out to my colleague Agnieszka Kaminska, who actually gave me a hint to invite you. Thanks, Aga, for doing this, and thanks Agnieszka for the other Agnieszka, now you Agnieszka Mikołajczyk, for coming and sharing it with us. And the link you just it was. So you said that there was 10 blog posts and all the sources available on GitHub. And what was the link again?
It's detect waste ML.
Okay. Yes.
Like detect waste and machine learning.
Okay. Yeah. Because I already see. So there is a question so Nicholas is asking if all the slides will be available, and the answer is yes. We will share all the slides and all the links. I will put them after we finish the stream. I will put them in the description, and you can come to this video a bit later and then check. All the links will be there. All the slides will be there. Yes. Yeah, we have, and I want to remind, if you want to ask a question, there is a pinned link in chat. You can just click on this and ask. And we already have a few questions. The first one is from Vitalina. So thank you, Filipa and Agnieszka. Which tool software do you and your colleagues use for non-profit objects? Could you recommend some open source products for that?
Okay, maybe I go first. Okay. So about detect waste, we just used Python, and I'm not sure what do you mean about software, because everyone used different software, but there is a lot of materials on Python online, and we used mostly PyTorch library and PyTorch Lightning. Also, Neptune AI is free for social good projects, so you can check it out. They also gave us permission to use it for free. And you can also use Colab. Google Colab also shares their servers for free to use, I think 10 hours daily or something like that. So you can train your deep neural networks there. And also our GitHub is also, everything is free to use for non-commercial and commercial. So yeah, just visit it and go there. Filipa, you can go now.
Yeah, so it's pretty similar. Our volunteers are using mainly open source software. So also Python. I think they never use it like deep learning frameworks, but they use sklearn. They have already used it, for instance, for the dashboard Power BI from Microsoft. And in us as an organization, we have Google Suite accounts. So you have it for free. If you are a non-profit organization, you can apply for this. And then you have all the features that an enterprise has. We also have Slack and GitHub professional accounts for free. And then we also use Trello for organizing ourselves. But I think that's it. So if we need some kind of, for instance, there was a project where they thought about using, for instance, Tableau. In that case, we normally either apply for a free subscription, or normally we ask Tableau for being to be our partner, and then they would sponsor us. Instead of giving money, they would offer a subscription, for instance. And that's it.
Thank you. A question from Nicholas, I think to you, Agnieszka. Would using a semi-supervised approach lead to a biased data set? And yeah, so I think there are two questions. So the first one is would it lead to a biased data set or not?
Yeah, okay, so the results might be a little bit biased, of course, especially if we have unbalanced data set. And here we have it because we have much more metal and plastic categories. However, we tried to also approach this problem. I didn't have time to talk about it, but we also approached it with a loss function, which was, bigger loss for smaller categories, smaller loss for big categories. And we tried it to approach this way. And the answer to your question, yes, it can be biased. We didn't notice that it made our results worse. In fact, for smaller categories, the accuracy was higher. So I think that's okay in our case.
So I assume you had some sort of holdout data set, test data set for which you where you tested that this approach actually works. Because that is the second part of the question, that have your final networks been tested on unseen online data?
Yeah, yes, of course. We have tested it on unseen data, and you can see results also on our GitHub. So we have like very huge table of tested on, I don't know, 10 data sets, and also on different merges of data sets. So yeah, we did a pretty good job evaluating it on many different data sets and models. So yeah, you can dive in it.
Thank you. Then a question from Shirin. What would you say is the best way to collaborate and communicate with social scientists or those without data science background?
I think from my perspective, this is a good question, and this is probably one of the biggest challenges we have. That's something I've been learning as well every day, how to communicate like the results and the needs. So we always, when we talk with these beneficiaries, for instance, that they don't know about data science topics, we always bring slides. We always try to make it simple, like avoid technical terms or code on the slides. We normally don't do that. And then we always try to start on the problems they have. And after having these problems identified, try to explain them how data can answer these problems. And I think it's a great way to introduce the importance of data, but it's always a challenge.
Yeah, I think I don't have anything to add. Filipa really answered your question. I can add from myself that we didn't really have much of cooperation with people who don't know about data science. So that was easy on us.
Yeah, thanks. So now there are also a couple of questions in chat. So the first one I have is from Arkadiusz, who I think I saw in the list of people that you presented. I think he was one of the mentors, right? So his question is...
Yeah, Arkadiusz.
Yes, exactly, him. And actually he asked this question during Filipa's presentation. So I don't know to who this question is, but I think you can both try to answer this. The question is, are there projects that turned into commercial projects when, for example, somebody started a business?
In our case, no. So we tend to always work with non-profit organizations, and we try to help them in their process. So we are not aiming to make a business of it. Yeah, in our case, that's not the goal, definitely.
So here is the same, but I think Arkadiusz already know that.
Yeah, but I imagine that there is some potential, for example, in this detect waste, even not as a business, but as a, I don't know, separate entity that provides these services to the government for detecting waste and helping to clean the streets.
I can tell you about it because now the Digital Innovation Hub, which we are working with, they are our partner. They try to make some cooperation with us and Miasto Gdańsk, the City Hall of Gdańsk, and maybe they will utilize our machine learning model in their city app, because they have like a smartphone app for sending requests to clean something like illegal dumping site and so on. So maybe this will be useful, I hope.
Thank you. Then we have a question from Van. Do you have an example, like do you have some suggestions how business analyst or data analyst can help in these projects?
Yeah, so in my case, I would say like as long as you have the skills to look into the data and understand how it could solve the problem. I'm not sure if you already have some volunteer which is specifically a business analyst, but like I said before, our projects are pretty simple, so we don't want a complex algorithm. For instance, our first project was to analyze data of a fundraising campaign so that they could improve the campaign on the following year. So of course it depends on the business, but I would say that's pretty much similar to what a business analyst does. So of course those skills could be really useful for this kind of project.
Mm-hmm. So even though like even without machine learning, there is already
definitely
quite a lot of things you can do by simply exploring the data, right?
Yeah, for instance, one of the projects we had where we created a campaign where the goal was to create visualizations with data that would impact people and make them more sensitive to the cause that we were talking about. And there it was much more important, for instance, to have a designer or people from communication in that team rather than a machine learning expert, because like the analyses were really simple. So yeah, I think a lot of backgrounds can fit here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to add something. Maybe you could get interested in Omdena AI. Omdena AI, they have a lot of different kinds of machine learning, data science projects, and sometimes they have projects where there is a great need for people like you for business analytics. And maybe if you just go to their website and check it out, you will find something. And also Omdena AI is organization where there are people from many parts of the world, and they are very short projects, 2 months, I think, usually. And I also take a part in one of their projects, so I really recommend. It's a nice start, I think.
Yeah, and I have, thank you, Agnieszka. So I have one last question from me personally, and I think a lot of people ask me, I do not have an experience, but I want to get into data science. Could this initiative, data science for social good, could it be a good option for people like that who want to break into data science, who want to get some practical experience? Could it be a good option for them to get this experience?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yes.
I think it's one of the best. Okay, Filipa.
No, you can. So no, I would just. I think, of course, it is. So, for instance, with open data, you can create the project you like that brings you motivation, and you can work on your own pace. At DSSG PT, for instance, I can tell that we have already had some volunteers which didn't have experience, or people from other backgrounds. For instance, we had someone from marketing, which then was starting at data science. She has done, then did like an online course and then wanted to apply this knowledge, and she worked really very well, and I think we also have some examples where people also got a job because they had this project on their portfolio, and it's also a great way to network. Yeah, so definitely.
Okay. Well, I guess that's it. There are no questions anymore. You managed to answer all these questions. So thanks a lot for joining us today, for sharing all this, sharing your presentations and telling us more about these initiatives. This is really great, and now I know what to answer to people who ask me how can I break into data science. So thanks a lot.
Thank you for organizing this.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Have a nice evening, everyone.
Yes, have a great evening, everyone. And just a reminder, so we usually have 2 weekly events on Tuesday and on Friday, but there will be no event on Friday this week because it's Easter and it's a public holiday and everyone have a vacation. Yes. So see you next week. Goodbye.
See you.
Thank you.